My people were biologically determined for one purpose alone, to sense the coming of damn fine podcasts. I sense it coming now.
We should probably do this if we're going to stick to our...
Yeah, I mean, are we waiting on somebody? I'm done. I'm recording.
No,
I'm
we're all recording.
Well, then, okay. Okay. So,
You will never be able to podcast as good as us. Your tongue is too human.
Hello. Welcome to a Discovery Home Companion. We are going through all of Discovery, Star Trek Discovery. We've had a little bit of time after watching the show and doing our immediate kind of impressions to kind of cool down and take your calls and listen to it. But with me, as always, is James Nolan.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And Hugh Crawford.
Hello.
And I'm Wade Bowen. Yeah, so...
And we like to split hairs.
Yeah, we're here to split hairs, aren't we?
We are here to split hairs.
What did we forget about Lethe?
Does anybody want to add any insight before we get into the phone calls or anything like that?
Nah, let's just hit it with the phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts after sitting with it that I thought I was going to be able to come up with, and now I'm drawing a blank. But so the phone calls will probably refresh my memory.
Yeah, they'll draw it out of you, like sucking out the venom of a wound.
All right. First off, we have something from Tom from Cleveland.
Oh, very nice.
Gentlemen, it's Tom from Cleveland. I'm Discovery here, there. I'm a DS9 fan. I'm used to people not liking my Trek. Used to a darker Trek, a serialized Trek. You guys are talking about production notes on your last voicemail podcast. Does it bother anybody else, or is it just me that the Discovery Bridge is huge? It's cavernous. I keep waiting for the cute redhead with the stuff on her face to turn around and be like, "Oh my God, there's a robot girl on here." It just seems really disproportionately large compared to other bridges. I mean, Lorca's chair is a good 20 yards away from anybody else in the entire bridge. Also, if this is Trek for Trek's sake, they should start putting in like some deep-cut Easter eggs. If they win a battle, they should celebrate with a bottle of Chateau Picard. Maybe somebody could talk about their Golden Retriever, a la Voyager, and then probably the deepest cut, the next shot of Mud in prison. He should be standing next to a Cardassian and be like, "Oh, you guys are having resource problems, huh? Little planet in your sector you should look up. Beirut, Bajor, look it up. Really great little planet. You guys would love it. Anyway, keep playing nice. Talk to you soon. Bye.
They actually do have a bottle of Chateau Picard they had it in the pilot episode, I think. Captain Giorgio had one.
He said that, right?
Office.
Is that what Tom said?
Well, he was saying they should have those kind of Easter eggs, like a bottle. I wasn't sure if he was saying that they didn't or that they should.
Oh, I thought he was using that as an example, like if they're going to have... I misunderstood.
Yeah.
But the cavernous bridge, the bridge never bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, the place is huge.
It is huge.
The whole ship is...
It's very Kelvin.
It is. Kelvin with the lights out.
Yeah. Let's make it bigger. And it's, how American can we be with this? Yeah, because usually the bridge is just the living room where everybody hangs out in Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And this one, it's like Burnham doesn't really spend much time on the bridge of the Discovery. She's back in engineering. It's like she's living in a little city. It doesn't feel small. Yeah.
A lot of times the bridges have been dictated to by the way the camera structures on television shows work.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, if you watch the TNG or the original series, you get this very, like, it's very theatrical, the way the set is.
Yeah.
And obviously TNG takes off that. And so it's a little roomy, but, and it is very Kelvin feeling, which I could see as polarizing, but I don't know. I
mean, it is what it is.
I feel like I have to choose my battles with things I hate about Discovery.
Right. Oh, and they had the Chateau Picard, and they also had Lorca's little seduction scene. He was drinking, Carter Hull or whatever. It's a scotch that O'Brien and Bashir like to drink. I believe in that.
Oh yeah, the wee something. Yeah.
They're in their sing song famous drunken scene that y'all weren't as keen on that's what they're drinking.
You know, if you want small and something that feels claustrophobic, man, that first Enterprise, Jonathan Archer's Enterprise, felt like a submarine. All right. Well, thanks for the Tom call.
All right.
Thanks for the Tom call. Thanks for the call, Tom.
Okay. Yeah. And here we have something from. We got something from Stefan.
Oh,
All right.
How do you feel?
Yeah, well, I wonder how he feels about something that a quick question of something that struck me as odd during the last episode of Disco, which we can officially call it now since they have that on their shirts.
Hello, Discoverers. This is Stefan from the Netherlands. I just saw the latest episode, and it was okay. It did leave me with one question. We see that over here that Burnham's parents were killed in an attack by those Vulcan extremists, so not by Klingons. So why did you go full PTSD during the first episode? Okay, talk to you later.
So this has become up.
It was unclear in the first flashback.
It's unclear. It's a muddy. It's a muddy mess.
Her parents were still killed by Klingons.
Right.
She says that, but
we've actually never seen that, right?
We saw a flashback to the extremists.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw on the Vulcan Science Academy moon or wherever base she was on, which wasn't the Klingon attacks. That was a Vulcan. It is a little confusing because I wonder if even in that first episode when they were shooting it, they just figured it was a Klingon attack, and then later they kind of retconned it or something.
Well, like it didn't make any sense because I don't know. Like I admit when I think in our podcast on the first few episodes, we talked about like that this doesn't make a lot of sense. Like what I've visually seen.
The way I thought of it in the first one, like, okay, I thought maybe she was doing the Vulcan science training thing, but maybe it was a joint kind of UN school kind of thing where her parents were also on the Vulcan planet and she was studying with them.
Yeah,
but nope, that's not what it was.
Yeah, that Sarek was her teacher, is what.
Right.
And then,
exactly.
And then everybody died, and then Sarek adopted her because they were survivors.
Yeah, that's what I assumed it was, but I guess not.
Yeah, but then again, on the first episode, you see her in that little training pod, and you see that the training pods are asking her these rapid questions about logic.
Right.
And then they start asking her these rapid questions about the way Klingons attack and specifically an attack on a certain base.
Right.
And it was clearly her parents' base, and it was there to make that the Klingons are trying to make her emotionally upset so they could fail her.
Right.
You know, or they're testing her emotions versus logic. And she failed. So you do on the little screens, you get to kind of see a clips of the explosions, I guess, but that's a lot to put together in like a flashback on a pilot.
Right.
I mean,
and it could even get even more complicated now that I think about it. Like, what if? Because they also say that the last engagement, Klingons haven't been seen for 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
What if her parents died 100 years ago and she was like an embryo or something that was frozen in stasis?
Oh yeah,
and then thawed out for just.
That's the most complicated thing on Expanse is the lineage of the lead, and it just seems like it's
12 parents.
It sounds like it's unnecessarily complicated.
Maybe we'll get it explained in Discovery, but maybe they'll just assume we know. That's the thing with this show. This is one of the things I guess I wanted to talk about that I was like, they are so like meticulous. They're doing big picture stuff. They're being kind of dicks about it, where they throw all this stuff in that is like obviously like fucking with canon and it's pissing off all the nerds. But then the show is setting up, the whole show is like, it's all like fucking mansplaining, well, actually over and over again.
That's what, yeah.
Because there's all this stuff that like feels like, oh, what, holograms? Fuck that. That's not canon. And then they're like, well, actually, Kirk dealt with some holograms in the TOS, and he was just impressed by the emitters being not there. Or they keep doing that over and over again.
There's a lot of hand wringing over.
Guys, their fidelity to canon is pivoting. It's pivoting, guys. It's going to be okay.
It's like, well, and then they're like, well, if you paid attention, you would realize that it was canon. It's like, well, okay, sure. If you're going to make us jump through all these hoops, I guess you can explain it that it is canon, but like, or you could just not be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, you could not be such a dick mansplaining it to me and just like not like fuck with me and poke me in the face to tempt me into thinking you're breaking canon, and then just like, actually we didn't. And it's like, just don't provoke me. Like,
They got a bullshit answer for everything. Is what's irritating. It's like you can come up with a convoluted bullshit answer for everything every time they break canon. Like James made a Sybok crack on Discord the other day, and I was like, oh yeah, Spock has got an older half brother. I guess he would be raised with Michael Burnham too. I wonder if Sybok will show up in Discovery.
Yeah. Right. Well, Amanda doesn't want Sybok around. She probably sent him off to live with his mom, right?
No, he lives. It's canon that Sybok lives with his dad.
Oh, okay.
After his mother dies. Yes.
Oh, was that in? I gotta rewatch Star Trek V, man.
No, you don't. No, you
Here,
don't.
I'm gonna get.
We're gonna watch it together one day, buddy.
After the death of his mother, Sybok was raised by Sarek as a half brother to Spock. As a young student, Sybok was considered to be exceptionally gifted, possessing great intelligence, and it was assumed that he would one day take his place among the great scholars of Vulcan. He's got listed as siblings, Spock, half brother, Michael Burnham, foster sister, in Memory Alpha. So he's already been Michael Burnham's already been updated into Memory Alpha. I'm all about Sybok being the bad guy of season 2.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows I'm totally comfortable talking about porn, but the way most people feel like when they're talking about porn is the way I feel like when we're talking about canon. I'll admit that I'm pretty interested in it, but I'm embarrassed about being interested in it. So,
and you don't know what the legal definition of it is, but you know it when you see it.
But yes. So all things that started off in like shitty 60s situations or have bad canon. Comic books all have bad canon. If you go back and read the first 50 books of Fantastic Four, there's all kinds of crazy shit in there that is in no way what would be called Fantastic Four canon now. Because it was like, it's from a different time and everybody was just kind of making shit up as they went along. And then as the stories sort of built weight, then the concept of canon and nurturing canon comes forward. So like, I think that when you're getting into this, you can't go back and say, well, like, it's like saying that, well, this doesn't happen. Like Spider-Man doesn't have whatever scenario, and they'll go, well, if you look at episode 8 back in 1963, you know, like, fuck you. Yeah. Like, no, it's not not a part of Spider-Man. So I feel like that's kind of what's going on here. But also I think that there is a fundamental difference of what we talk about when we talk about Star Trek, is that I think that CBS and the people that work on this show think about like I said, they think about the 1960s. They think about the original series because that's what sells. That's what the like toy lines sell and stuff like that, because baby boomers are the ones buying this shit.
Right.
But we all know, everyone our age and everyone on Discord and everyone like that knows that that Star Trek that we talk about is TNG centered.
Right.
So
the baby boomers aren't the one buying streaming apps either.
They're
so
not.
They need to get that right.
Well, they're not, but they're the ones that buy
cable packages.
Jim Kirk action figures.
Oh yeah.
And Mega Blocks construction things for the Enterprise.
Yeah.
So I think that they think Les Moonves, I'm certain, thinks that fans of Star Trek like Spock and Tribbles and shit like that.
Yeah, they wouldn't be doing a prequel series if they didn't think that.
Exactly. Where I think that Berman era, like I don't love Rick Berman, don't get me wrong, but Berman era Star Trek is the Star Trek that we talk about.
Right.
Yes.
Like that's the canon center.
Yeah.
That's the storylines that we want everything to spoke off of. So, like, I think that it's a fundamental difference of what Star Trek is. And so that's where I think the problems arise.
We have 2 treks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the original series exists, but it is, you have to but if there's a canon point between TNG and TOS, I always go with TNG.
Right.
Because those writers thought about that shit.
Yeah.
Where I'm sure
TOS
DC
did.
Fontana didn't give a shit about continuity when she was writing scripts to Gene Roddenberry, who was backing women into corners, working for Lucille Ball. None of that. Nobody cared about canon back then.
Well, Roddenberry kind of did, but not really.
But not really. I mean, I think Harlan Ellison was writing whatever the fuck he wanted to, and then Roddenberry would edit it.
Yeah.
So, but on TNG, they actually had books. They actually had all of this sort of work that they had done.
Right.
So I feel like it's different.
In
to point
TOS, it was all kind of memos back and forth. There were a lot of memos. Don't get us wrong. But
guys, we should probably move on to the next call for time, because we've only had 2 calls, right?
And this next one, I believe, will probably keep us going for a little bit. This one is from Lane. I don't know if you know him.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's becoming a call-in fixture.
Yeah, no, he's got good things to say, I think. And well, that's nepotism, right? No.
Hey, it's Lane again, and holy shit, guys, what the hell? No show could live up to the expectations you seem to have for this thing. No Star Trek show has ever come close to those expectations. And yes, there are flaws, but geez, come on, man. Case in point, your problems with the Lorca getting laid stuff. I get that's a minor annoyance, but the flaw that you think it is? Really, man? I thought actually that's one of the only actual developed relationships in the whole show. They actually set up that clearly, there's some baggage between these two in earlier. Problem with the show sometimes, they set breadcrumbs and then expect them to be more filling, I guess. So they led the breadcrumbs that they have this past relationship. And then she shows up, this person, basically the equivalent of an ex-wife or an old girlfriend that they might have gotten married and had kids, but their careers came first. So they've got lots of baggage. She shows up because of this emotional connection, which I thought they actually established, this long-term relationship. She shows up and yes, she has sex with them. She fucks them. But because they have this baggage, it's not just plot device that the criticism from you guys seems to be coming from. It's like a relationship that makes sense. Characters would have sex. They probably had boned a lot in the past. So she shows up. She's a little, prone to Jason Isaacs. They've got this baggage. She ends up, sleeping with him because, she's got that connection. And then she doesn't want to totally fuck him over, so she does and then she's able to be led astray by him. Then, of course, after they bone, she realizes, whoa, he's a lot more fucked up than I thought he is. I'm going to fix this. And you seem to think that there's all this time that passes, but no, she says, shit, we're going to fix this. Once we get to somewhere, because they're in the middle of nowhere, we're going to talk about how to get you out of this command. But, of course, stuff comes up and that never gets to happen. And, of course, we see how conniving Lorca is because he clearly finagles her to go to this peace treaty that you probably know she's going to get removed, and that's it. But they actually did establish that relationship, I thought, pretty well, and I had it much better explained until I called in. Anyway, also, I think you guys are seriously underestimating the seduction capabilities of Jason Isaacs. I just, for example, my wife, as she put it, Jason Isaacs gives you whiskey, you're going to fuck him. So also I know I need to keep Jason Isaacs away from my wife. But regardless, that plot, while it is annoying and kind of gross, they actually made it make sense that they would have this relationship and bone. Maybe there's a power dynamic that makes it kind of gross. She's in an authority position. But clearly, that worked between a character level. The plot level was justified by the character work, I thought that they...
All right.
Did it just cut him off?
Yeah, he got a little bit cut off.
Well, I don't think I appreciate his point of view here. And he makes fine points.
It's not just nepotism. I'm going to agree with my brother on this.
Right.
He makes good points.
Well, here's the thing. I don't feel like we're holding this thing to an impossible, because
I don't either.
Somebody got burnt. Somebody got burnt in the face, and we were like, we were still unclear. Like the internet, everybody who watched it was still unclear on like what happened. Like there are some serious like storytelling problems with this.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to take his side on this. They did set up that they have a past relationship.
No, they didn't. She called him a friend. They totally did. She called him a friend.
Well, they're in this, like, hey, it's Star Trek. We're over. I'm still friends sometimes
is that all we have to do to set up things?
No. Hey, look, if we're gonna get serious about it here for a sec, I'm still friends with my exes. And if, I've been still friends with my exes, met up as friends, we didn't have anything else up, and yeah, I fucked them. That sometimes happens. Well,
this is turning into one of the best voicemail segments I
right. Sometimes you remain friends with your exes. Sometimes they stay friends with benefits. And sometimes, yeah, you end up fucking your friend. It can happen. It's not the craziest thing ever to happen in the world. Okay. And then also the fact that, and the thing that y'all harped on that Lane kind of got to, that I was kind of got a little bit worked up in the last email. I'm going to actually take a breath here and try to deal with it calmly. That, yeah, her intention was, but shit was happening fast. They had to get somebody to the peace treaty thing. And she did have a good relationship with him where they were her friend. She was going to hey, we do have to get you out of command, but I'm not going to take, because also she's on the ship where he's the captain. People are probably loyal to him, to it. I mean, maybe not, but it's his ship. You want to get to a port or something before you remove this guy from command, because you don't want to, you're trying to be politic about it. But something else comes up, she gets stolen, and it's a little bit of plot armor, but it's not the deal breaker that y'all immediately made it to be. I
think we just had a problem with it in the moment. It's something that we were just conveying how we felt when we watched it. That was I didn't give it a second thought. It
turned into the crux of what ruined the episode for you, though, and that's it's a thing to point out, but it's not.
Okay, so let's say there's an episode. Let's say there's an episode where Picard's on a mission, and Admiral Nechayev comes over to give him some sort of special instructions on high. She talks to him about what he's been up to the last few episodes. There's a Borg thing or whatever, and then he goes, "You ready to go to my quarters?" And then then it cuts to Riker visiting him, and Picard is shirtless, and Nechayev is sitting ass up on his bed, laying ass up on his bed with animal fur over her. That's fucking weird. But it's weird to fuck your boss. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
This isn't evolved humanity here, buddy.
That's right.
Also, this isn't TNG. This is the precursor to Swing and Dick Kirk.
This is in no way evolved humanity, by the way.
Well, this is also... Well, evolved humanity has...
This is exactly the shit we live in now.
Well, hey, let's go back to the original series and see how evolved they were with all the people running around.
Well, I mean, we did have Dr. McCoy slap a pregnant woman, so
yeah,
let's
exactly.
not... That takes place 10 years after this.
Guys, he was trying to win a war.
And if Jason Isaacs gets you drunk, you're going to fuck him. Come on, let's be honest.
It's this. I mean, it's just the point that, like I said, I don't know. I guess people like the show, man. People like it. I'm not
right.
I don't know.
That's all I'm trying to I understand your points, but just try to see, it doesn't.
People like this show. I'm not saying they don't like it.
And maybe it's not plotted out precisely perfectly, but the breadcrumbs are there that they do have a previous relationship. Maybe you didn't jump to the fact that they were exes and that they might fuck, but it's there. The plot went there. That's what it is. Some of us might see that it makes sense because you doesn't. I mean, it's worth
You're fucked
saying,
up, James. That's what he's saying.
It's worth pointing out that you don't get it. But
I didn't say it didn't make sense. I said it was fucking awful, which is different.
Well, is it?
Yeah,
it's a value judgment that you're making.
I understand where the story is going. I understand what they want me to feel. I think it's gross and fucking awful.
And I will stand by it. It's pretty bad timing to have the "Do you want to come to my?" But they didn't know they shot this 3 months or however long ago.
Starfleet doesn't deserve to win this war. I'm on Vox's side. I want him to fuck shit up.
Oh, he's gonna. Well, it's he's gonna fuck
Burnham too. Yeah, right. I'm on Vox side on this, I think.
All right. You're on Space ISIS' side? That's fine.
And now, oh man, I've got a beef with this Space ISIS analogy because it's not Space ISIS. Because we actually have we have the state of, it's a Klingon state that's at war with the Federation. It's like Klingon ISIS might have started it, but they're not in charge anymore. They got their ass got kicked, pretty much right away. And somebody else is taking control, and they're not the people who've taken control are not at all religious zealots. They're a cunning house, that wants to seize control of the empire. So, I mean, it's not a religious zealot story anymore.
Now, if we're going to accuse anybody of being Space ISIS, it's that logic cult on Vulcan. I think they're suicide bombing themselves. Come on,
they're logic extremists.
Yeah. Yes. And don't get me. And I think that's the dumbest thing. Well, I've already talked about how dumb I thought. Blow myself up.
Their logic is just so extreme you can't handle it.
Yeah, right. It's true. I'm just a stupid human. What do I know about their logic? Maybe it makes sense. I don't know.
But no, I think that yes, I think that Starfleet. Yes. I think that Klingons are not ISIS. I think Starfleet is dumb.
It's just sex, man. Let's not get so hung up on it. Maybe you want to fuck your boss.
I've not seen anything. I've not seen anything redeemable about the Federation or Starfleet. Period. I guess Michelle Yeoh talked a good game. She got her ass ate. So
they saved those people on that one planet.
Yeah, they shot
their own dilithium miners
because they had their space oil they needed.
But there was babies in there. They saved the cat. That was in the first act, James. They saved the cat.
Look, James, they're trying to win a war. They couldn't announce themselves.
That's true. They're trying to win a war. Right. They had to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah. Can't unveil your secret weapon to the world. Anyways, let's move on. We've got another voicemail here from a regular from the Rules of Acquisition, from Eric from Pennsylvania. He has a theory about Lorca. Let's hear it.
Hello, companions. It's Eric from Pennsylvania, at Ariel Base on Twitter and other assorted social media whatevers, calling in after episode 6 of Discovery with, well, we could call it a prediction, we could call it a theory, let's just call it a hope. And that hope is that there is more going on with Lorca than we are giving the show credit for. Now, bear with me. First of all, I think in a show and in an era of television that loves its twists and turns and fake outs, I'm just not ready to take at face value this snippet we get on the Klingon prison ship that he straight up murdered his whole crew so they wouldn't be captured. Especially after seeing in episode 6 the way Admiral Cornwell talks to him. She talks as if she's talking to somebody who's gone through a trauma, not somebody who murdered his crew. So I think, and I know I don't have a lot to go on here, I think that he would have gone down with his ship and maybe wanted to go down with his ship, but someone, maybe this first officer, I don't know, somebody got him off of the ship, somebody saved his life, and he feels guilty. He feels responsible for the loss of his ship, he feels responsible for the loss of his crew, and so he's adopted this story that he just straight murdered them, partly as a way to punish himself and take the responsibility that he feels. And that's what's been fueling him to be the colossal dickhead that we see on the show, because he's trying to win a war. But I feel like in episode 6, we see him with Michael and with some of the other crew members. It seems like he's starting to soften. And maybe that is an act. Maybe it's all bullshit. But I don't know. I think the show is more interesting if it is partly about him learning to forgive himself and his journey of redemption. And maybe that's naive. Maybe I'm giving the writers too much credit. But that is my hope. And isn't hope all we have to cling to as we go on this emotional roller coaster together, my companions? Anyway, thanks for all you guys do, as always. Bye.
So I think this might be an interesting time to invoke like a thing that, like a plotline, a possible plotline that either was bungled or not clear maybe, that some people were talking about on Reddit, and we talked about it after we recorded the podcast, which is this idea about Cornwell's phaser. And I watched it again.
Oh, yeah. Cornwell. Aerial base. I'm just happy that we learned. I just put together that Eric from Pennsylvania is aerial base.
I didn't realize that either.
I know. He's a good friend of ours on Twitter and also on the Patreon.
Yeah, he's a fixture on our Discord server where we talk about all things.
I don't think I realized that he was Eric from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was.
I didn't either. Too. It's like, it's good to put that together.
His bona fides. He's the only person we know with a Deep Space Nine tattoo of the station.
Yeah, it's a cool tattoo. Like, yeah,
yes, it was. So the theory goes, and if you watch it again, maybe they were doing this because it's clearly set up. When the Klingons attack Cornwallis, what's her name?
Cornwell.
Cornball?
That was Cornwall.
Cornwall. No,
it's Cornwell. I'm pretty sure. Everybody says Cornwall.
Admiral Corn. When she comes out,
follow the leader.
They attack them, and then she goes to get her phaser, and it jams like phasers do.
Right,
and she looks at it, and she bangs it, but then they cut away, and it's all super. That goes from another critique I have. It's all cut so fucking Michael Bay fast that you don't really get to see. They don't sell what it is, but basically she doesn't get a phaser blast off. And then that goes to the weird shot of Lorca at the end where he's got the phaser in the back where you're supposed to think, oh, he's so fucked up, he's always carrying a phaser. I guess that's a key, but they shot it like it was a reveal.
Right.
And I think that you're supposed to think that he sent her there with shitty phasers. And that knowing that when push came to shove, she wouldn't be able to defend herself and would get caught.
Well, you know what? If they were good at their storytelling, using a visual narrative as, TV is, then maybe that would be clear. But this is my problem with the show.
Yes.
Is that at the end of every episode, they're so wrapped up in being mysterious that the way shit's cut, you don't know what's going on.
And I will fully I agree with that. They need to be there. It's a mess.
Mm-hmm.
But the things are still there that I'm not going to say that they're not. I'm just saying they need to do it better.
I posted on the Discord server, and I think we're going to pass it on our Patreon. But I would recommend there's a Lindsay Ellis video about looking at the way Michael Bay directs Transformers and sort of his visual language and how what it ends up creating sort of like a visual soup in your mind that's not it's confusing. It's not just that the robots are confusing looking, but it is. But it's that he doesn't center there's all kinds of shit. She goes into it. It's really fascinating.
Yeah,
but
that
basically
will be up on Friday. October 27th. We'll have a link to that on our Patreon. Yes.
Yeah, and so, but basically that everything just gets muddled because everything is going by so fast. And what that means is that, substantively, you don't remember things. It seems exhilarating. It's like a roller coaster ride to watch, but at the end you don't remember the way if you sat in a scene. But
right. That's kind of my criticism of JJ as well. Which
the camera is constantly moving. Even in reverse shots, the cameras are constantly moving, so that and everything's at a canon angle, everything's at these weird jump cuts. So just you don't in my mind, it's hard for me. When we do DS9, it's not hard for me to get my my mental hands around the throat of a mental scene. I can remember, this scene is, and I can't with this. Everything seems so it's slippery.
Right. It's made to get a visceral emotion implanted.
Yes.
So as it were. But it doesn't sit with you, which is my big beef with J.J. Abrams. It's similar, but also different than Michael Bay. But that's kind of what I'd agree that's kind of what's going on here.
It would be nice if there were just scenes where two characters just talked and the camera just shut the fuck up. Just got out of the way and just filmed it and let me watch them. But yeah. So I think that's another problem that I have with it, and I think that might be like a constant because I've never responded to that kind of filmmaking. I get that it's popular, I get that a lot of people do, but it's just something about it. I've never responded to that kind of movement. And so I think maybe I'm just not liking that either. And so I don't know. I can't run the experiment that if they shot the whole episode in another way, would I like it? The things that I'm complaining about, would I like it? But I don't know.
Oh, and another thing about the Cornwell, this is another just note just about this episode titled Lethe.
Oh, yeah.
Coming back, another big theory about this episode is that Cornwell is Lethe, the character from Dagger of the Mind.
Man, these bullshit TOS things exhaust me. But this is just one click off of Garth of Izar bullshit.
But if you look at Lethe from Dagger of the Mind, she looks a hell of a lot like
She looks 20 years younger than Cornwell.
Well, but because it's TOS, but yeah.
Well, then get an actress. If it's that connection, then get an actress that looks like Lethe. I mean,
they can do amazing things with surgery. I'm just saying it's a theory that's out there that who knows.
I know.
It's titled Lethe. She's got the exact same haircut. She looks 20 years older, but
I think that all these theories to connect it to the original series is a symptom of a greater thing, which is the fans are hungry for something they're not getting.
Right. Well, and if they do Klingon mind sweeper things, which is which is a thing from TOS too, where which might have to do with the Ash Vok kind of thing too, where they have mental machines that can reprogram and rip memories out of people. It would fit for Lethe, and it might work for what they do with Vok. But who knows? Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong to be annoyed by it too, but it could be there. It probably isn't, but it's an interesting thing. I think it's a theory.
Impossible. I don't remember Dagger of the Mind. I don't have any sort of.
Well, she's like a she's a mental patient that has this like kind of former life that she doesn't remember. It's like, oh, that's a different person.
Oh, she becomes Legion?
I don't know. I haven't watched it either. I just in a long time. I just looked up the theory that she's a mental patient who does some like stuff with Kirk or whatever. But in her former life, she was a therapist. Cornwell was also a psychologist who did psychology stuff and did an exam on. That's why she's concerned with Lorca, because she worked him over after all his trauma or whatever. But Admiral Cornwell was a psychologist, mental science person.
Yes.
She gets kidnapped by Klingons. Maybe she gets mind wiped and turns into Lethe later. That's the theory. Whether it's true or not, it's an interesting theory.
I'm not going to make the easy joke, but you can always trust a military organization that promotes their psychologists to admirals. Right. But no. I get it. It's different. That I think is supposed to be from a more enlightened Star Trek.
Right. We take mental health seriously, James, and they do in TNG more so.
I admit it's from a more enlightened military organization than what we're seeing. All right, so
yeah, I just wanted to point that theory out there.
No, I don't know enough to like opine on it. I do think that Hugh's onto something about we keep trying to make all of these connections.
Right.
And even us, we're making the Vok connection. Like, if that doesn't turn out to be the case.
Right. But I mean, Lethe is the name of the episode, so if they were doing it, it would. No,
I'm not saying you're not wrong, but if they were going to do it and the title of the episode's name Lethe, it looks like they could have made it clearer.
Well, maybe they're waiting for that to be a reveal later on. We don't know what happens to her. We just know she gets stolen by Klingons at the end of it.
Inshallah.
We have another voicemail here. We got a voicemail here from someone we haven't heard from before.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to just let it play.
Hey guys, my name is Carly. I am calling about Discovery Home Companion. Actually just started listening to your podcast. A friend of mine who listens to Rules of Acquisition recommended it to me. Big Trek fan, and I'm really enjoying your guys' show. Wish I could say the same about Discovery itself. I wanted to call in this week because I was just listening to the episode, and I just wanted to let James know he is not alone. He is not the only Trek fan who is really hating Discovery. I'm still in it because it's Star Trek and I'm paying for it, so I'm going to stick it out because it's Trek, but man, it is really only like Trek in name. That's about it. So I don't know, I guess maybe that makes me a big old nerd that I can't look past all of the errors in continuity and going against the canon and all of that. But hey, man, that's the way it is. So, James, whatever, Reddit, I can't speak to that, but you are not the only one. It is definitely, it's tough. But I also wanted to talk about one thing that I noticed that's been bugging me since, I guess, the third episode, when they went to the ship, the other ship that also had the spore drive or whatever, and they got there and everybody was dead, and they, it had those weird spiral markings on the hull, and then you see the close-up of the body, and it's all twisted up and malformed and whatever, and they're all like, oh, that's weird, I wonder what could have caused that. And then you see the Discovery jump for the very first time, and it's like, bruh, it's obviously the fucking spore drive that caused it. Your ship does a whole spinny thing when it jumps. Maybe make that connection. And, it's never been brought up since. They haven't even brought up the fact that everybody just mysteriously died on that other ship. They just completely forgot about that, moved right along, and have, not addressed it since, which, again, the writing, I have to say, not great. And I don't know if they're planning on bringing that back or not, but in terms of, okay, so we're talking about this is pre-TOS, why doesn't this technology exist in the rest of the Trek canon moving forward? I'm gonna guess it probably has something to do with the spore drive fucking kills you if you use it for too long, because that's definitely what happened on that original ship. So that was pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Big fan, like I said, of your guys' show. I'm definitely planning on listening to Rules of Acquisition, but
she cut off.
Yeah, she hit the 3-minute mark and it cut her off.
It's good to hear from you. What was her name again?
That was Carly.
Was that Carly? Carly, yes.
Yeah,
she's not wrong. It's good that I think that's good that if you're heated about Discovery and what you don't like about it, you should call up, because I feel like we do feel like we're alone with the zeitgeist here. I mean, I think that
among the Discovery podcast out there, we might be a little harsher than some.
Yeah,
Trek FM. But,
well, and I think I propose this theory that it's possible that it's sample error, that because you have to pay. I think because you have to pay, that people pay, and I think we're out of the month. We're out of the first month. I think I paid for this twice now. For 2 months.
Oh my God. I probably have too.
I guess we all have. Right?
So I think a lot of people dropped it because you heard a lot of criticism early on. It wasn't resoundingly popular early on. And so then I feel like a lot of us that were critical of the show quit because they don't have podcasts about it. And so they quit, and so their voices are silenced in the debate. And so now it's everybody holding on.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You're only going to hear from people who like it because they're the only ones watching it. If you don't
because
like
they have to pay for it to watch it. Yeah.
I'm paying for it, I have to like it, right?
If it was just showing up on your DVR, more people might watch it. Or, if it was just the thing that was...
Or catch up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this way, either you have to pay or you have to go to Pirate Bay and then convert it to Plex and then lunch on, there's a whole thing. So
it's an excellent
which
point.
you totally shouldn't do, but nonetheless, and that might be making it all. And then I think some of it is I think people are enjoying Trek.
Yeah,
and I'm wondering to see if the show. I'm wondering to see at the end of this all, at the end of the last episode of the season. Will I hate it the same, and will everybody else hate it the same? Because I imagine that if you're holding out, if you're positive, if you're holding out, what Ariel Bay said, if you're holding out hope, the finale is where that breaks, or it's verified. Your hope is either justified and rewarded.
Right.
That's a great point.
Or you it was like me at Legion. I was I think this show's got problems, but I think they're doing a thing. And when they didn't do a thing, I was do I hate this show? I think I do. I'll watch the second season, and I know Holly's great, but there was elements of that show that I thought were flawed. And I wonder if that'll be a dam breaking. But if no point in Legion, if you'd asked me, do I hate the show? I would say no. I would say, I like the show a lot. Mm-hmm. And if I was listening to a podcast that was highly critical of it, I would go, stop it. You're being too hard on it.
Let me enjoy the show that I like. Come on.
So I wonder, will it verify what it's doing? And or will people feel like me? And maybe I'll like it. Shit, maybe the ending does justify it. And I'll be like, everybody was right. I was wrong.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath for that. They keep tempting us
to
like...
I will say, and I don't know when likes to toot their own horn, I do think that I admit when I'm wrong. That's a thing that I do.
Yeah.
So I might not feel that I'm wrong because of psychological issues, but I'll admit it if it rings cherries at the end or all like comes to a cohesive like conclusion, I'll give it.
Oh, I'll admit when I'm wrong too. Problem is I'm never wrong, we got one more. Let's see. From another good friend of ours, from Kristen from Toronto.
Hey guys, this is Kristen from Toronto again. I got some thoughts about Discovery, but I'm going to try to keep it brief because I could talk all night about it, but I won't. So first of all, here's something good. I really like how in Discovery so far there is no tits and ass character. There's no Counselor Troy wearing a really low-cut top on the bridge for absolutely no reason. I really appreciate that. The women in the story are there just being characters, having inner lives, being people, instead of having this extra layer of objectification on them. I really like that. And as just a small thing, I really like the replicator or food synthesizer or whatever it is that judges your food choices. That is so realistic. I bet some asshole in Silicon Valley is disrupting refrigerators as we speak and developing something like that will be a thing in 6 months. All right, now on to the bad stuff. Like you guys have said this before, the line-to-line writing is just bad. There are some really dumb lines, like when Admiral Booty Call called Lorca's a change, or in his behavior, she said it was upsetting, which seemed a bit of an understatement, just kind of a laughable line. And they're also doing this thing like they used to do in CSI. If you guys watch CSI, when CSI got to season 12 and really ran out of steam, there's a sort of rule people talk about in screenwriting or playwriting where it's like, well, if you want the audience to remember something, you have to establish it or say it 3 times. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a thing people say. So they started doing this on CSI 3 times in a row. They'd establish the fact in the plot, and then one character would say it, and then another character would comment on it, literally right next to each other. So I felt like Discovery just did that with Lorca at the end, when it's Saru tells him, the Admiral's been kidnapped, what should we do? And he says, well, call Starfleet. And a smarter show would have just let us have that sink in on our own, that Lorca is acting out of character, and he clearly wants the Admiral not to come back so he can keep his ship. But of course, Discovery has to have Saru comment on it, and then have Lorca confirm that, yes, I'm being evil and duplicitous. Ha ha ha, I am terrible. So that's disappointing. Yes. I don't like that. And I am enjoying watching these a lot of the time, but there's a lot of... It's underwhelming, and it's bad. And I also really don't appreciate the space ISIS thing, like Stefan called it. I think in this current political climate, that is from offensive to irresponsible. I think that's just not cool. However, I have hope. If we were all original series fans in 1987 watching the first 6 episodes of Next Generation, I think we would be similarly appalled and upset and dismayed, because those first 6 episodes are really crappy, and some of them are really offensive, like the really racist one where Tasha Yar gets into a cat fight to the death on a planet populated exclusively by racist anti-black stereotypes, right? So, out of that very poor beginning came a whole Star Trek universe that has the best of Star Trek, in my opinion, in it, like late seasons of TNG and Deep Space Nine. So maybe if Discovery evolves, it can get somewhere better than this and create a whole new universe that we don't know about yet that might, have good things in it and have things we can appreciate. So I still have hope. I'm not dismissing it yet. But overall, okay, guys, I think that's enough for me tonight. Thanks again for all you do, and this is one to beam out. Good night.
It was so relieving to hear that Kristen had this
she really. I mean, I think a reoccurring thing from our fans, at least the people who listen to our show, is that they are holding out hope, even if they don't like it. There is still hope that it'll get better. Nobody's writing off the show because you don't do something that people enjoy for 50 years and write it off after 6 episodes. It's not. I mean, I think you could have done that with the OA. If you were 6 episodes into the OA, you could have been like, you know what? I'm out on this. I don't need to finish it. That's what I did with the Defenders. I watched the first episode. I watched like the first 10 minutes of the second episode. I'm like, you know what? Life is too short to watch something that you're not enjoying on any level. Uh-huh. So I just, you could do that. But I think that if you have a vested interest in a world that has been built for 50 years, then you should. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there's a lot of hope out there.
Also, real quick, I would say that Star Trek Next Generation got better because the main executive producer basically lost his mind, and they fired the showrunner and let Rick Burnham.
Yeah, that's kind of.
I'm sorry.
That's so.
That's your hope is if it gets carried, then they flush all these Transformer people out of the show.
That's exactly they're getting. That's what I was gonna say. Oh, it could be great. Like, I love all the actors.
The bones for a good show are there. The skeleton is there.
Yeah, like they lost their vision, but please, just like, I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to crap on all the writers. I just want to crap on Akiva and Alex Kurtzman.
And you built, and they built a dark version of Star Trek here. And if you fire all those Transformer people, there is a working writer who's got showrunner experience, who's currently writing sci-fi and is currently making the rounds. And he's got a blue goatee, and you can't miss him. And maybe call him. And maybe put him in charge.
Oh my God! Yeah, if they got Ira Stephen Bear on.
Holy crap! If they got Ira Stephen Bear on this.
Wow,
this world.
Yeah, your listeners of the Rules of Acquisition could appreciate how big a deal it is for James to push for Ira Stephen Bear on this, because you've been the worst to him.
He was Ira Stephen. That's just like people wishing George W. Bush was still the Republican president.
I think Ira Stephen Bear is a shitty scriptwriter.
Okay, there it is.
He's showrun one of my favorite shows, so I don't know why. And I think he's probably better and wiser. I think that a lot of the things that he went on a limb for in Deep Space Nine are now I feel like he can feel confident that he made those decisions. He can feel proud that he made those decisions, and sort of maybe he's a little bit more confident to make stronger decisions. I don't know. I think that you're not going to get more. You're not going to get some other bigger name. You're not going to get
see, that's an inspired choice for me. I was like, hey, just go back to the well and bring Fuller on now that you can. I mean, I'm sure the bridges are burnt there, but Fuller said, hey, they got my number. He said that.
Again, I know it's network, but I'm saying that he was slumming it before.
Yeah.
And in a real way, because he can kind of write his own ticket what he's doing.
Yeah. I
know it doesn't get the views that network television gets, but this isn't network television either.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Ira Stephen Bear, give him a call, guys.
All right.
And fire all these Transformer people.
Well, on that note, we should probably sign off, right, guys? You want to give the information for people to get a hold of us?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah.
Plugs?
Go ahead and give us a call at our hotline number for all things Kickers of Elves, I guess, at 917-408-3898. Let us know about Discovery once this new episode drops with the super long title this weekend, right?
This monster, this magic, or something like that.
Magic to make the sanest man go mad, or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, so, 917-408-3898. And also check out our Patreon, where we put extra stuff up at patreon.com/kickersofelves.
Yep.
All right. All right. Well, thanks again for listening. We hope you join us next week for Wade, James, and myself. 3 to beam out.
Subscribe to us on iTunes or Stitcher or Caster or Fuckcast or Podsucker. Review us on iTunes. Also grab a bit of fame for yourself by calling us at 917-408-3898 and leaving us a message. We play that shit on air. Or email us at rulesofacquisitionpodcast@gmail.com. Also, listen to our Deep Space Nine podcast, Rules of Acquisition. It is pretty amazing, but you may not yet be ready for its awesome amazingness. Assess your personal awesomeness appropriately.